is my first time going live. Let's. Okay. You will hear my little one in the background. He's having a good old time running around playing, so we'll see how long we can keep this going. And yeah, hopefully we'll be all fine. So I thought I'd do a little bit of a Q&A today. I've had a few people ask me about low carb healthy fat living and what I eat, so I thought I'd give you all a chance to ask some questions and I'll try to answer them as good as I can, and yeah, we'll see what we can do. So I thought, let's see, hopefully you can all see what I've put up, and let's see. So first of all, with low carb healthy fat living, the main aim is obviously to reduce the amount of carbohydrates that we take into our bodies, because the way we evolved as human beings, we used to eat more fatty food, and we also used to do this in a more of an intermittent fasting way. So I thought, going back to the way we were designed to live and train our bodies back into becoming fat burners rather than carbohydrate burners has been sort of the main thing for me. So let's see if we can get some people on here so we can get some questions happening. So what I'm going to do is see if I can find a link that I can share. There we go. If I can share that into my Facebook or somewhere. Let's see. So it might take a little while for people to come in, but let's see. So if you are here, please, comment so I know that you're here and I can interact with you as well. And make sure that you press that thumbs up, so that helps my channel as well. Alright, so one of the things I first did when I started going low carb is that I entered an app onto my phone. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see. It is called Carb Manager. I thought I might show it for you. I haven't entered anything in yet because, as I mentioned earlier, I do intermittent fasting as well as my low carb. So let's see, go away from that one. So what I've done in here, so this is sort of what it looks like. It allows you to set up your percentages. Let's see, can we see? Yes, you can. Beautiful. So it allows you to set up what you want, your energy percentages to be. So if you want, hi Shay, how are you? Good to see you here. So what I do, you'll see this a little bit, I allow myself, so about 40 grams of net carbs. I'm not quite sure what that is in ounces, but you can actually set this to be imperial as well as metric. So let's see. So when I enter food and everything in here, this is why I like this particular app, because it's actually really, really good, and it's got correct values on your foods. What you can do, you can actually just scan the barcodes. If you're having anything that's processed, you scan your barcodes and it will calculate the net carb. So a net carb is when you take the total amount of carbohydrates in your food that you're eating and you deduct the fiber. So that gives you your net carb count, and that's what you're counting, because our bodies don't absorb fiber. So that way we can find out how much we're actually absorbing. And one of the reasons why it's a good thing to actually restrict carbs is we're having an epidemic at the moment of type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance as well. So when we're eating a lot of carbs, our body keeps having to produce more insulin and having an insulin response, and that's when our blood sugars go sort of up and down like this. So you're eating something that's high in carbs, blood sugar spikes, and then it will drop again in a while. And depending on I'm sure you've seen, low glycemic indexes, low GIs, high GIs and stuff like that. That has to do with this insulin response and your blood sugar response. So when you're having something that's high GI food, your blood sugar will spike really fast and it will drop really fast. And whenever that blood sugar drops, you will start craving something more, like more sugar, more carbs, because you want to have that spike again because it makes you feel good. And you get into this sort of almost like an evil circle where you keep, eating fast carbs and then dropping down again, and eating fast carbs and dropping down again. And your body keeps having to produce all this insulin, and eventually what will happen is that your body will become resistant to this insulin, and this is when you eventually can get things like type 2 diabetes and stuff like that, and that's what we don't want. So the whole thing about low carb is training our bodies to go back to burning fat as their primary fuel, which is actually really good because when you think of it, our brains is actually made up of, I think it's something like 70% fat, if not more. So it makes sense that we actually have food that's rich in healthy fats. Now, and by healthy fats, I don't mean, go and deep fry your food every single day. That's not a healthy fat. You want to stay away from the vegetable oils and the seed oils. They're really, really bad for you. They go rancid, and they cause oxidative stress in your systems, which can lead to achy joints and, not good for our bodies. This is why we eat our antioxidants as well, to reduce all of this. Our good fats are things like your nuts and seeds. Avocados are amazing for good fats. Like proper, we're talking real good brain food here. Extra virgin olive oil is fantastic, but don't cook with it. You want with your olive oil, you want it cold, so you want to use it for salad dressings and put it in dips or whatever. For cooking, I tend to use either coconut oil, I use sometimes avocado oil, and I also use ghee. If you don't know what ghee is, it's clarified butter, so it's actually butter that's correct, yes, exactly, Shay. So corn oil and canola oil is actually really, really bad for us. They're actually got really unstable structures, and they go rancid pretty much straight away. So what we buy in the shops is already off, which is really, really bad. And I know coconut oil isn't everyone's cup of tea. And that's okay. If you don't like it, then that's alright. You can find something else. As I said, ghee is actually a really, really good, a good one to use. It's got a high smoke point, so it means it's really stable when you cook with it. So it's not going to change its chemical structure, because that's what you've got all your polyunsaturated oils like olive oil, which is great. But when you cook with it, it changes its chemical structure, and makes it not that good for our bodies, which is why I don't use it cold. And also, so all your seed oils as well. So you've got your grape seed oil, which is really popular because it's a really mild flavored oil. So a lot of people use it if they make homemade mayonnaise and stuff. But as well, it's an oil that can go off very, very quickly, and it's not a good one to use. There's so many other good ones. Avocado oil is actually really, really good to use if you're making mayonnaise. Homemade mayonnaise is great in salad dressings, and it's actually got a very high smoke point as well. So it's great for if you're getting the proper one. So don't get the refined one. Get the proper one, and you can use that for cooking as well. It's got a relatively mild flavour. I don't find it overly overpowering or anything like that. And seriously, the best place to get your avocado oil is Costco. I find most supermarkets, they jank up the price so high, and Costco, is brilliant. You can get a really, really nice big bottle, much cheaper than anywhere else. So that tends to be the ones I use. So I use avocado oil, coconut oil, and ghee for cooking, and I use my olive oil for salad dressings and cold things when I just want to put something over my fish or something like that once I've cooked it. So yeah, it's it's a lot of things, especially when you're first starting out. It is so hard to get your head around. But one of the things I find the easiest way to do it is to look for produce, not products. So I tend to go more using whole ingredients. I make things a lot from scratch. I just find I got more control over what I eat when I do that. And I don't have to, you don't have to sit there and look through an ingredients label to see, okay, what has it got in it? Because there's so many things that can spike, your um, that insulin response, and so many things has got hidden sugars in it. Things that flavored with fruit juice. That's fruit juice is a fancy word for sugar. It sounds really healthy, but the problem with fruit juice is that they take out all the fibers from it, so your body doesn't actually realize that it's full. So that's one of the things that the fiber does. It actually makes our body realize that we're full. So, okay, so take an apple for example. So apples in itself are not technically low carb, but they're an easy one to use to describe. So if you have a nice big apple and you eat that apple, you're gonna start feeling full. If you take that apple and you juice it, you're probably going to get a little bit of juice, and you're going to have a whole lot of fiber next to, like in that little container in the juicer. And you're going to drink that juice and you think, oh, I might need another one. So by the time you've got a nice full glass of juice, you might have juiced like 3 or 4 apples. So what it does is actually taking out all the sugar and the water out of those apples and concentrating it into your juice, and then you're drinking that and taking away the fiber. So it is something, when you're looking at it that way, I call it the liquid sabotage, because you can drink so much more than what you can eat. So your body just doesn't realize that it's actually getting all these carbs in it, and all these calories as well at the same time. So like you have the calories from your apple, and then you have your calories from your apple juice. And apple juice is much larger, even though you might need a nice big glass to fill you up versus the one apple. So that's another way of doing it. Go whole food based as well, and cook from scratch. So I do a bit of a mix of things. I do my low carb healthy fats. A lot of people call it low carb high fats, but then so many people go out and just eat a plate full of bacon, and there's fats in there, and a little bit is okay, but just eating a full plate of bacon is not going to get you all the nutrients that you need. So it's you kind of want to keep the bacon, for occasional foods, like you would, and just go with the nuts, go with the seeds, the whole seeds, so not the oils. Do your avocados. Olives are great if you like olives. I like to top them on the top of my salads. So if you have a look at some of my videos, I've got some salad recipes. I've got just some like little platters. There's lots of different things they can do. I've even got some treat recipes up as well. That use some of them only use the sweetness from berries and stuff. And a couple of them, the muffin recipe that I've got, the keto muffins, they use monk fruit and stevia. I think it might have some erythritol in it as well. And those sweeteners are some of the few that's actually compatible with the low carb living, because they're not gonna give you an insulin response at all. So they're brilliant if you're diabetic, if you're pre-diabetic, insulin resistant, and all of that. So it's actually really interesting when I started sort of digging deeper into this sort of way of living and watching documentaries and all of that. There was just so many things that made so much sense. The whole, we've got our grain industry has made it such a good point of, the whole. By the way, did you guys know that the term breakfast is the most important meal of the day? Do you know who coined that term? that was actually Mr. Kellogg's, the guy from, the cornflakes and all of that. He made up that term. And why did he make up that term? Because he wanted to sell breakfast cereals. Because before that, cereals and breakfast wasn't a huge thing. Most people were actually doing intermittent fasting and starting their meal later in the day. They'd go out, they'd work, the farmers, they'd go out there, work their fields, they'd do their work, and then they'd come in and they'd have their meal, which was probably more like, 11 a.m. midday. And then Mr. Kellogg's came along and he wanted to sell his breakfast cereals. And he actually had religious reasons for wanting to sell those breakfast cereals, but that's a whole other talk. And it's quite interesting if you go look it up, the whole history behind. Yes, intermittent fasting is actually really good for you. It's been found that if you sort of give your body, say, an 8-hour window to eat in, and then about a 16-hour window to rest, digest your food, your body's actually going to spend more energy on repairing itself, fighting inflammations, making sure our blood vessels are nice. Oh, I've got a little fly here. Go away. Making sure our blood vessels are, nice and clean on the inside. Our joints are healthy. All our tissues, hair, skin, nails, everything like that. Because when we keep eating and eating and eating, what happens is that our body keeps using all our energy into digesting our food. So there's no spare to go around to the rest of our bodies. And what I found was that once I started the combination of low carb healthy fat living and intermittent fasting, and you'll find that when you get into the fat burning mode and your body actually starts burning your own body fat, you're actually not feeling hungry in the morning. I don't really feel hungry until 11 a.m., 12 a.m., sometimes even later. So at the moment, I just listen to my body. I've trained myself to actually recognize those hunger signals now, whilst before I was just listening to those sugar spikes. And it's just been really, really interesting. My skin has gotten so much better. I used to, if I go back, say 6 months ago, I was in a relatively sort of bad place mentally. I had a lot of stuff happen early last year, that sort of brought me away from the way of living that I used to do. So I used to do low carb healthy fat for quite a while, and I felt really good on it. And then my father passed away in February last year, and my youngest son was diagnosed with autism. And this all happened within the space of less than 2 months. And I went back into these old habits of just eating sandwiches and reaching for stuff I probably shouldn't be reaching for, and my skin got so bad. I was breaking out sort of all over my chin. I was red in my cheeks, and it was horrible. It was flaky and terrible. All I've done now is change back onto the intermittent fasting and the low carb healthy fat living, so more like a whole food diet. My skin is cleared up, and my hair is a whole lot better. Still a bit dry, but that's just the way my hair is. But it's much more sort of glossy and nice than what it was. I've actually lost, so since I started back on again, which was end of September or beginning of October last year, I have lost about 16 kilos, which in pounds are, I think, about 31, 32 pounds, and I've kept that off as well. So I've done that, as well as I've also taken some herbal drops as well. That just helps again with balancing my hormones, because one of the things I found was that I was having really bad mood swings and stuff like that. So I used my herbal drops, balancing my hormones out, including my insulin levels as well, and it helps me sleep better at night, which reduces my cortisol levels, which is all good. So yeah, and just the difference I'm feeling sort of in my moods and everything. So yeah, 6 months ago, I was at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I was needing a nap on the sofa, and I would sleep every single day. I was so tired when my little one slept. I would sleep. He's 3 now, and we would have a nap together on the sofa, or he would sleep in his bed. Now I don't need that nap anymore. I've got energy, and which is, if you go by the traditional way of thinking of you need carbs for energy, it just doesn't make sense, because if that was true, I would be completely flatlined and I would be needing my naps and my sleeps and I wouldn't have any energy at all. But because I've now trained my body over into becoming a fat burner rather than a carb burner, I'm using my fat stores as fuel overnight when my body needs it, and my brain gets plenty of energy and plenty of food, because fats is actually brain food. That is where your brain food is, because, well, your brain is predominantly fat. So I'll be really interesting actually to find out, as this becomes slightly more mainstream. It's slowly getting out there, which is really, really good. There are some good documentaries actually. I don't know if you've got Netflix. There is an Australian series. There's a Australian chef called Pete Evans, and he does a series called Paleo Way, and it's been on Netflix for a while. I don't know if it's on Netflix in the US. I know it's on Netflix in Australia. And it's a brilliant series, and he does paleo, but he also does the low carb living as well. And I love his recipes as well. I got quite a few of his cookbooks, and they made a big difference for me too. Which is why I often don't video my dinners, because I use a lot of his recipes and other people's recipes for that. But that's a really, really good documentary series to watch. I think it's 2 seasons out if you guys have it. But yeah, The Paleo Way is what it's called, and it is brilliant. And it really talks to, he goes around the USA. Alright, so you use canola oil. So I would, I would leave the vegetable oils far, far behind as well. They're also same thing. They're not good for us. They're really unstable, and when you cook with them and everything of that, they change the chemical structures, and that's actually where you have your saturated fats. And this is where the grain industry and all of that did us all a big disservice, because they started promoting all these polyunsaturated, monounsaturated fats. And what these do is that they change their chemical components when you cook with them, so they are not stable at all, and they become really bad. So yeah, if you're going to cook, I would go with either coconut oil, ghee, which you can also get. I get both of those at Costco if you have a Costco nearby. Avocado oil, again from Costco. I think that's the 3 ones I cook with. And for cold stuff, I would use either avocado oil or I would use olive oil for cold things. If you don't like the olive oil taste, you can get the olive oil that is called extra light. So extra light with olive oil has to do with the flavor, not the fat contents. So some people just don't like the olive oil flavor. So if you go with the extra light ones, they're actually super mild, and I've even used them to make mayonnaise before. And I've never gotten that strong, overpowering olive flavour from it. So it just depends on what you prefer. So you find an olive oil or an oil that you like the flavour of. So I like olive oils. Like in Australia, I don't know if you do that over in the States. Oh, there comes my little one with his iPad. In Australia, we do something called dukkha. So I don't really have that anymore because, well, it's got to do with bread and stuff. But you get a little piece of bread, you dip it in a good quality olive oil, and then you dip it into a seed mix, like seed and spice mix, and it's really, really nice. I think it's originally like a Moroccan thing, um, and like Middle Eastern stuff as well. And then you eat that. So you need like an olive oil that you actually like the flavor of. Oh, great, Shay! If you like olive oils, oh, you're all good for, at least, especially for your cold stuff. Brilliant. So use that for your salad dressings and stuff like that, and just go and purge out of that pantry. Just get rid of the vegetable oils, the canola oils, the seed oils, and all of those that are doing you no good. And yeah, oh, dukkha is so good. I absolutely love it. I just wish I could eat bread. Carbs just don't agree with me. I bloat up like crazy, and I can really feel the difference when I have carbs now. I didn't used to do before. Once I started weaning off like all the bread and stuff like that, I realized how bloated I had been, and it was just really strange because that bloated feeling had just become this normal. I didn't even think of it. And then now it's just the second I have like even dairy. I actually don't have a lot of dairy anymore either, but that's because I do a bit of paleo as well. But that's not necessarily somewhere to start. That's a huge change going fully paleo as well, because that means cutting out all dairy as well as like legumes and stuff like that. So I do more like a primal style where I do a little bit of dairy, but it's more so in the form of some organic cheeses and stuff like that. My little one's down on the floor. Um, so yeah, there's lots of different things. Hey you. So yeah, that's my 3-year-old. You can see. Hey, he's just camping down right next to my chair, having a bit of fun. He's actually behaving really well today, which is good. Which is good. It makes life a whole lot easier. He's happy too. Yeah, exactly. I do butter, and I do ghee. So ghee is a clarified butter. So it's butter that's been cooked up, and then the milk solids from the butter has gone down to the bottom, and you strain off all just the pure fat that sits on top, and you just cool that off. And that pure fat is what I then cook with, because it actually, when you remove the milk solids, you increase the smoke point. And I'm not I'm not huge on Fahrenheits and stuff. I'm metric. I'm always on metric, but I think it gives like a smoke point of, I think it's over 400 degrees Fahrenheit if I remember right. So yeah, no, it's a good one to cook with. But yeah, oh, butter tastes too good to to totally get rid of. Everything tastes better with butter. So I think I need to move to France. I think you put butter in everything, and that's why it tastes so incredibly good. So yeah, no, it's lots of stuff. Um, so like, yeah, so what do I eat? So if I put together like a salad, so I just make sure that I do it in a not vegetarian way, because I like my meat too much, but I'd still do it in a plant-based way. So I do it like an omnivore plant-based. So like say I make a meal, I base it around my vegetables. So I do say spinach, like baby spinach or mixed lettuce down the bottom. I will add in my bit of tomatoes, a bit of other flavorings. Like you've got your cucumbers, red onions, I love that. Green onions, or in Australia we call spring onions. They're a good one as well. And then, so my plate is pretty much full of that, and then I'll put my meat or fish on the side, and then some eggs and things like that. And then I'll start adding in my fats. So I'll have maybe half an avocado. I might have some walnuts or pecans, are another really good nut. Macadamias. I love macadamias. Seriously, if I was going to be addicted to something, it would be it would be macadamia nuts. They are amazing, and they are native to Australia, I think, as well. So we have quite a bit of them here as well. But I do know that they do cost a bit more than a lot of other nuts. But again, I get all my nuts and stuff like that. I do get that from Costco because I just find that I get more for my money there. And then I'll top up in between. I'll go to like Aldi, and we got a really, really good greengrocer, so our fruit and veggie store, which is fairly close to me, and you can get really good value stuff there as well. So I stock up on lots of healthy vegetables. Blah, blah, blah. I'm getting tongue tied here. So the biggest one, the easiest one to do is your leafy greens. Your green leafy vegetables are the ones that are going to be the lowest in carbs. Things that are grown above ground is a good rule of thumb. Green leafy vegetables or vegetables that are grown above ground because they don't have as much starches in them. So at the moment, I don't have a lot of potato at all. Very, very rarely do I have potato. But what you can do to start with is you can swap your normal potatoes for sweet potatoes or yams, because they are lower in starches, so they're not going to have as big of an insulin response. And and off he went. And I'll just broccolini, asparagus, all your green leafy stuff is really, really good for you. Mixed lettuce, all of those sort of things. I quite like those. So yeah. Now, I thought before me rambling on, is there anything like any questions? Because I know you were saying, I remember we chatted before, like you're saying that you sort of quite like sort of getting into like the keto, the low carb living. So anything? Do you have any questions that you might sort of be wondering about as well? And I also thought, you know what, I was going to go into that. I got into that app of mine. I just want to see exactly how I have done my, let's see, where are we, settings, because I can set percentages. I might not try and go into one of the other ones. There's another one too. MyFitnessPal is another app that I've you don't like lettuce, that's okay. You don't have to have lettuce if you don't like it. That's when you can, saute broccolinis or those sort of broccolis. Those sort of leafy greens are great to saute in with like your healthy fats, like a little bit of ghee, some salt and pepper in there, garlic, some spices. Just put it all in there, and and then you can getting some more fats into there as well, and that will help fill you up. So you're going to feel much fuller. So you're actually going to feel like you're not going to need to snack so much, which is really interesting. Now let's see. I'm just going to try and find, because what I've done so how I've calculated how much carbs and fats and protein I eat in a day, I did it in a like on a percentage. I'm just going to see if I can find where I have my percentages stored somewhere. I think I got it somewhere. Nutrition, there we go. No, not there. Goals. Goals. Nutrient goals. Where are they? It is somewhere. There we go. Alright, so I do. That one's completely changed on me. Probably because I've been away from this particular app for so long. Let's see if I can reset it. So I do. So first thing I do is I go in on my. Let's see. I'll just show you. So this is the MyFitnessPal. And I know there's one in, I'm pretty sure I've done a similar thing in the Carb Manager one, but I usually just use that to log stuff, so I'm not 100% confident on the settings, but yeah, I found that one. So what I'm going to do here is when you click, so at the moment it's reset into like the standard diet, which is what I don't do. So I go in and customize. So I just click on one of them and up comes this little wheel. So I want my carbs. I want it preferably when you start out, you want your net carbs to be below 50 grams. Now I'm not sure how much that is in. If I set it, I might be able to convert it to, let's see. So I use, yeah. So I go 30 grams of carbs, which is 10% of my daily intake. So if you do this in Imperial, you'll be able to, I might be able to change it over as well. I can even check that later. I can see if I can look it up. And then you're going to need to reset your fats. So my carbs is now sitting on 10% of my daily intake. Calorie intake is coming from carbs. So that's about 30 grams. I usually even end up being lower than that. And that's net carbs. So this is your total carbs minus the fiber. And then protein, I do a moderate proteins. I think I usually do, yeah, I think I'm usually sitting at 70% of my energy intake usually comes from some sort of fat source. And yeah, and about, actually no, I reckon 65%, and then I'm at 25% with protein. So 65% from fat, 25 from protein, and 10 from carbs. That's a good starting point. Then as you get more confident within it, you could up your fat to 70%. You could drop your proteins down a little bit, down to 20%. Or you could drop your carbs down to 5% of your daily intake. And that's quite low. But you'll find that once you go whole food based, it's going to be so much easier to reach those goals and stay below them as well. So yeah, no, it's a good place to start. Oh, great. So yeah, so you love spinach, cauliflower, broccoli. Awesome. There's so much stuff that you can do with those. I love in the morning for my, like, actually I don't really have breakfast, so in the morning for me is like when I first eat. Breakfast technically means break your fast, so it doesn't really matter when you have it. Even if you have it like around lunchtime, it's still technically a breakfast. But like sauteing a spinach in with some ghee or something like that, salt and pepper, a bit of garlic, and so it's really tasty. And then I like to saute. Yeah, cauliflower and broccoli are great to saute as well. Super handy. Give them a really good sort of toss or steam them just give them a quick steam. I think I like them to be a little bit crunchy, so sauteing for me is like perfect. And then I have them on the side. I might then, if there's still a bit of fat left in there, I might actually scramble some eggs and use up the fat down the bottom, or I'll fry up a piece of salmon, because I really love crispy skin salmon. If I got one with the skin side on, or I might oven bake, like make a little salmon parcel, and I've got a recipe for that up as well. I've got a video on that, how to do those, because they're really quick and easy to do as well. But yeah, just getting like your frying pan out and doing your vegetables, sauteing off your vegetables first, frying off whatever piece of protein that you want to have. So whether that be meat, fish, for those that are vegetarian, you can do tofu, and then finish off at the end. I scrub up my eggs, because that just collects up the last little bit of good fats down the bottom of that pan. Season it well, and exactly like a frittata. Frittatas are freaking awesome. They're brilliant. I actually make it for my son a lot, because he loves it. So my little one, my 3-year-old, he loves his eggs. So like omelettes and eggs and stuff, they're brilliant to do. And you could do, if if you like your cheese, you can put your cheese on top. For those that are dairy free, you can do, there's something called nutritional yeast, and you can do that over the top. It's got almost like a little bit of a parmesan flavour to it. So you can put that over the top and stuff and have that, like a frittata or an omelette as well. So that's a brilliant way to do it. So yeah, no, it's lots of stuff that you can do, but it's like getting back to this, cooking from scratch and not reaching for, packet mixes and stuff, because a lot of the stuff, even though if they say that they're sugar free, if you look in the back, awesome, yeah, I love frittatas too. If you look in the back of things like packet mixes, even if it's just like a taco seasoning, and you're looking at the ingredients list, the first one that very often is listed is maltodextrin. And maltodextrin is actually a type of sugar. It's a carb that will actually spike a pretty decent insulin response. Hey, sweetie. Hi. Yeah, Mummy gonna come soon. And where's the iPad? Oh, where is flower? Tell it it's flower. Yeah, the flowers. Flower. Yes. So my little boy is actually non-verbal, so him trying to say flower is actually quite a big deal. That was actually really cute. So we're doing a lot of speech therapy with him at the moment. So he's having a good time today. He's in a good mood, which is lovely. I completely lost my train of thought there. What was it I was talking about? I can't even remember. What was I saying? Yes, I think so. Getting back into this whole, using whole spices and not packet mixes. I'm thinking about, I might actually put down a recipe for like taco mix, because it's actually really, really easy to make yourself. Instead of using the packet mixes, because a lot of the taco mix, like burrito kits, mixes like that, they all have maltodextrin as their first ingredients, which makes no sense at all. Oh, give me 1 second, because my little one has just opened the fridge and is beeping at me. Okay, I'm back. He just wanted some food, so we just had to get him some food out. Oh, your niece cannot say snake. It's really cute. It is so gorgeous when they're doing these little words. And my little one, he can't quite say frog. He tries, but it sounds like a completely different word that we're not going to say out loud. So it's just like, oh no, I just hope he doesn't say it out in public. Because I know what he's saying, but no one else does. Oh, Nate. Aww. They're so cute when they do that. But yeah, it's actually going back to like the making spice mixes and stuff from scratch. It's actually really, really easy. And you can do it in like a mortar and pestle. I've got, you've seen me use my Thermomix before, and I know that's actually available in the USA now. It's been for the last maybe year or two, I think. It didn't use to, when I first got mine, they weren't available. So I do all my spice mixes in there, and I buy whole spices from the shops, or like a bulk store. We have an awesome store here in South Australia that you can buy like huge big packs of whole spices, which is really good, because I'll make things like my taco mix, burrito mix, things like that, and then I can have those sort of things without feeling guilty, because I'll put in my so we call it mince. I think you guys call it ground beef. and I'll put in my own spice mix in there, and that way I know exactly what's in it. It's still a food made from scratch, and I'll do like a taco bowl or a burrito bowl rather than wrapping it up in a shell or in a tortilla. So I might have it on top of some salad. I might have it. One of the things I absolutely love is making like beef strips and with taco seasoning on them. So you fry them up and you have it on top of. You make your own sweet potato fries that you just bake them in the oven. So a bit of olive oil, and so they're not going to be like completely crispy. Or if you've got like an air fryer or something like that, it's good to put in. So I put it on top of that, and you can put like kidney beans in there, or if you like black beans and stuff like that, you can put that on, and it is really really tasty. Make homemade guacamole on top, and it is so delicious, and you don't feel like you're missing out on like your taco night or anything like that if that's what stuff that you like to eat every now and again. Because I know one of our things is like Taco Tuesday. It's a big thing here in Australia. I don't know if it's the same in the States, but yeah, that way the whole family loves it, and you get that you get your Mexican flavors and stuff like that, and it's really yum. But it's whole food based rather than packet mixed based as well. So yeah, it's good. It's sort of the stuff that I like to eat. Actually, that would be another good one that I could do a recipe on actually. So I might. Let me know if there's any recipes you guys actually like me to make and do videos on. If there's anything particular, so I'm thinking I might do a couple of quick ones doing spice mixes. I've got a like taco burrito mix, and I've got like a Moroccan spice mix, and do like dukas. Yes, exactly, Shay. The taco mix is actually really salty when you buy it in a pack. And actually what I've found now is, since going low carb and whole food based, is that I actually have to add salt to my food, because the commercial stuff that you buy is so salty, because when they took out the fat from all our food, go through the shops and you're gonna end up with a list about a mile long if you wrote down every single thing that said fat free, or 99% fat free or something like that. Because what they did was that when they took out the fat, they took out the flavor, and to add in flavor they had to add sugar, and then to balance it out they added salt. So yeah, it's so much salt in those, and it's not good quality salt either. It's like the kind of salt that's had all the minerals taken out of it as well, which is why. So when I use salt now, I only use the Himalayan salt because it's unrefined. It's still got all the good stuff in it, so it's got all the minerals, which is really good. So because we actually still need, unless you've got a kidney disease, you actually still need a bit of salt. Your salt actually help you absorb water and liquids into your body, and yeah, what we tend to do then when we go off all salts and everything is that we end up flushing out all your electrolytes. So a little bit of salt, but yeah, good quality salt, so the unrefined stuff. Yeah, the pink Himalayan salt is brilliant. We also, here in Australia, we got Murray River salt, which is another good one. Which is we got these massive big salt plains, which are amazing. When you drive past them, you're actually getting this pink glow. So it's looking like this lake that's just like pink, and it's really cool. But yeah, they literally just harvest. They let the wind go over it, and all the salt sort of get whipped up into a frenzy, and they harvest it, and it's completely just harvest it just like that, and then pack it. So it is the it's much better way to have your salts, because you're getting your nutrients and your minerals as well. But yeah, obviously we don't want to go overboard. But yeah, you will probably find that going whole food based and cooking completely from scratch, you will gonna have to add a little bit of salt and pepper. Pepper is actually really good for you too. Black pepper. I use black peppercorns in so much, and it actually helps you absorb a lot of the nutrients from your food. So it's actually a very, very good thing to add to your food. But yeah, I'd like to get the whole peppercorns, because again, the second you grind stuff down, it's going to start going off. So buying the whole spices and then grinding it down either in a mortar and pestle, which is a really cheap and inexpensive way to do it, or if you have just like the grinders that you just go straight onto your food, that's another great way. Or when I make my spice mixes, I put all my whole spices into my Thermomix that I've got, and I just crank it up to high speed, top speed for about a minute, and yeah, that just helps grind it all down, and it smells so good. Or when you smell like you got your pack and mix spice, and then you got your freshly ground spices. Oh, the difference in flavour and smell is just incredible. It's just so much more fragrant, and it's beautiful. So yeah, there's lots of stuff. So what kind of food is it that you like to eat at the moment? Yeah, oh, awesome! You got the grinders, fantastic. And I can always I can see if there's any way that I can help you tweak stuff, if you want to do that. By the way, Shay, are you proud of me? I'm actually going on camera and I'm showing my face. First time for a live, and I'm showing my face. You remember how apprehensive I was about that? Oh, you love veggies a lot. That's awesome. Fantastic. That's a great base for all your stuff. So base your food around your veggies, and then start adding in your fats and your proteins on top of that. That is brilliant. That is really, really good. So yeah, you said you like your spinach. So yeah, I do quite often. Now I've got the recipe for a Buddha bowl that I've done, which isn't, strictly speaking, it's not a low carb because it does have quinoa in it, but you could always reduce that down. Okay, so thinking about sort of going more towards the vegetarian or more the plant-based way. So yes, you can put your spinach down the bottom of a bowl and start putting in like your other things. So find a protein that you like. So as I mentioned, tofu is completely fine because it's a fermented. I'm usually not a big fan of soy because it's a hormone disruptor, mainly for boys though, because it's actually got estrogen. It mimics estrogen in your system. So you don't want too much of soy. That's why I also don't use soybean oil. But tofu has actually been fermented, so that's more okay to use. And you can marinate that, and you can put it on the side and have that for your protein. Chickpeas is another great protein to add, and you can pop it in the oven, or you can use your fry pan, and you can just sort of dry roast them with some spices. I really love smokiness, so I like to put like smoked paprika and stuff in there. Just go with what you like those sort of flavors that you enjoy, and add the spices in for that. I love like little rainbow tomatoes, little cherry tomatoes. I really like some. You could finally sort of shred some cabbage. That's another good one. I don't know if you like fermented foods at all, but sauerkraut is actually a really, really good one to add in as well. It gives that little bit of like a acidity to it, and it's so good for your gut health as well. So I do try to add that in at least 3 or 4 times a week I try to have at least some fermented foods and stuff like that. So I put that often sort of on top of the spinach to mix in, and then I might add an egg. If you eat eggs, I'll do hard-boiled egg, put on top, and then just the veggies, the kind of veggies that I like. Then you can saute your greens the way you like it as well. So yeah, it's there's a lot of ways that we can go sort of go plant-based and still do low carb as well. And then you can put your you can either make a dressing from scratch. I've got in the Buddha bowl recipe, I do a dressing in there. And obviously, as mentioned, I've got the Thermomix, but I know that is a significant investment. So not that many people have them. But you can completely easily do it in like a food processor. If you've got one of those little ones, it's got a blade, and you put the little stab mixer on top and flick around. That's a great one. Rice, I do try to stay away from. Brown rice is better than white rice, but they still cause a significant spike in blood sugar and insulin levels as well. If you're going to have a little bit, maybe even see if you can find the wild rice where they got like the black and the red stuff, because they actually got the outer bits on there as well. So, and I'd only have like a tiny little bit, maybe like less than half a cup maybe with your food, and then I'd probably slowly wean off. A good, to start with, a good substitute for rice is actually quinoa. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. A lot of people cook it or try it out and they find that it's got a bitter taste to it. The way to get rid of that bitter taste is actually treating it as rice and actually rinsing it really well first. Lots of running water through it, give it a really good sort of wash, put it into a pot, put your water in and get your hands in there and just really wash it, and then just slowly, gently sort of strain off the water, and then I do say half a cup of quinoa to 1 cup of rice, so it's a 1 to 2 ratio, 1 part quinoa to 2 parts, did I have to say rice? Not rice, water. 1 part quinoa to 2 parts of water, and I tend to do that if I do feel like something that's got a little bit more carbs in it. I do use quinoa rather than rice. But yeah, to wean yourself off, I'd go the brown or the wild, preferably more the wild rice first, and then maybe even mix it in. You could go half and half with a little bit of quinoa and some rice, and then start weaning off the rice. But yeah, if you're rinsing that quinoa, you're going to get rid of that bitter taste. It's just like a little coating it's got on the outside of the quinoa. So thought I mentioned as well. So quinoa is what they call like a pseudo grain. So it's gluten-free. Oh, great! You love wild rice. Beautiful. So that's definitely better than your white rice as well. So yeah, I'd start maybe some so do your wild rice, maybe half wild rice, half quinoa to start with, and then just slowly wean off the rice and get used to the quinoa, because quinoa is actually high in protein as well, even though it's like a pseudo grain. So it's much lower in carbs than a lot of the other things, and it's a good stepping stone. Absolutely, it's much better than any of the other, like the more refined stuff, the more refined grains and everything. So yes, how long have we been going? I don't know how. Does it say? Oh, we literally just got an hour. Oh, I'm so proud of myself. Considering I was so nervous of doing a live. So yeah, so that's that's a good way to start out, um, and then yes, go away from the rice eventually. Like very occasionally, I might have a little bit, but I'm talking if I have it now, it's like less than quarter of a cup, I reckon, of rice. And it's mainly like if I just really, really craving sushi and I'm out, I might have a little bit, but that's pretty much as far as it goes with me. So like if my family has, so what I've done, because I'm not making my family eat low carb when they don't want, if they don't want to. So I might, if they feel like, a taco, I'll make them a taco, but I'll use my own spice mix. They'll have the shells or tortillas, and I'll make it into a bowl, like with spinach or lettuce down the bottom, and make it into more like a taco salad, as if you want. Um, so it's for us. This got like I've got a family of five. It's trying to incorporate it into a way that um, my family can live with it as well. And sometimes they will eat like my full on low carb meals, but yeah, I'm not going to force them to eat stuff that they don't necessarily want to eat, because well, they live here too, and I need to respect what they like too. Sometimes we got if they want pasta. I found at the shops. I don't know if you guys got it in the USA, but I found in the shops in Australia. I've found a black bean pasta. It looks like spaghetti, but it's made from black beans, just ground down black beans. So it is, far better for you than the plain pasta, and it's actually quite nice. It only cooks in about 3 minutes, and it's actually completely black. So, um, so they'll have their regular pasta, and I'll make, say, maybe like a bolognese sauce. And again, I make them from scratch. I use whole spice herbs and spices. I got my little herb garden outside, and I use that a lot. And um, yeah, just make it from scratch. I get it from Costco. I get like lots of like canned whole tomatoes. So I do that to use that as a base, and then build it up from there. I put in my herbs and my spices, and you get like a really nice, and just let it sit there and slow cook for a while, and you get so the Italians, I think, call it a ragu. So it's just simmer for hours if you want to do it really, really well, but who's got time for that? So most of the time I'll have, your dinner's done in about half an hour, and a bolognese is a good one to do for that. And they'll have their normal spaghettis or pasta, and I'll have my black bean pasta. So yeah, I don't miss out. They don't miss out, and it's the best of both worlds. And I still get my low carb food. Yes, tomatoes are so good. I've got a nice big tomato plant out the back in my makeshift vegetable garden on top of my retaining wall. And my little 3-year-old, he loves tomatoes too, so he keeps going there and picking them before they're ripe. So I keep finding like these half-eaten green tomatoes all around the place. So I don't think my poor tomato plant is meant to be. So I do have to mainly buy them just because I can't get to them. They never get a chance to ripen. But yeah, no, it's oh, there's another person here. So yeah, it's handy to stuffed tomatoes. Yes, it is so good. I do stuffed tomatoes and stuffed mushrooms. If you get those nice big mushrooms, they're really, really good. So if you get nice big tomatoes, and even like some bolognese mix into those is really good. Or taco mix. Like when you're using a spice, obviously your own spice mix, so you don't get the hidden sugars and the hidden nasties, additives and preservatives that we don't want. Yeah, that's just so good to put inside. And what other things do I usually stuff? I stuff eggplants. I like those as well. They're another one that I often do if I actually have a bolognese sauce. Before I found that black bean pasta, I used to get eggplants and I'd halve them and sort of hollow them out a little bit, and then I'd fry off what I sort of cut out and put that in with the bolognese sauce that I was having, and I'd fill it back into the eggplant and put it in the oven with a little bit of cheese on top. And that is so good. It is so nice. Oh, yes, it's awesome. I love it. I really like it. There's just so many. So yeah, you can put then, if you put in the oven, you can put a bit of avocado oil over the top, or coconut oil and stuff like that, which is good to fry with. And yeah, no, it's really nice. There's just so many things. Like seriously, I don't think there's any limit as to what you can make when you're going low carb. There's so many things that you can substitute with, so that you can still have, like, you know, those family favorites, and you don't feel like you're missing out, especially when you're starting out. I'm just really sort of excited to be able to share my recipes and share sort of my journey with everyone, especially sort of through this channel as well. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. Hi Deidre, how are you? It's good to see that someone else jumped on as well. So we've just been sort of talking about low carb living. Shay's been asking some questions. It's really good. This is actually my very first live, which is really exciting. I've been really sort of worried about showing my face and doing a live, because usually you only see my hands, which has been an intentional thing for me. Sort of getting into this whole YouTube thing, it's just really exciting, and I just love being able to share the way that I cook, and hopefully inspire some other people. Dida, do you do low carb? Are you looking into low carb or keto? I think, have I been to your channel before? I reckon I might have. I think I have. It's just really exciting, and like being able to answer people's questions if you have them, and stuff as well. I really love to do more of these lives. What I'm thinking is that I might even do some meal planning lives as well. Usually I'll meal plan on a Thursday. So now that the kids, actually, my two older kids actually went back to school today. So we've had, because I'm in Australia, school holidays finished this weekend. So this is the first week back at school, because, well, this is our summer. This is summer holidays for us. So it's a little bit more quiet in my house. I haven't been able to do a lot of... I don't know if you noticed, if you've watched my videos, you notice that I either do a voiceover afterwards, or I'll just do text down the bottom of my videos. And at the moment that has been because it's been school holidays, and especially my oldest 13-year-old, he's a bit of a gamer, so he'll have I'm actually using his headset at the moment because I use the microphone. So he's got this headset on, and they're those noise cancelling ones. So he'll sit there, and he has no idea how loud he is speaking. So he will sit there and talk to his friends while playing games on the PlayStation. And it is so loud that it's actually picking up in all my videos. And it's like, I think every single video that I've done so far in the last month, I've had to take away the audio and redo the audio on top afterwards, because he is so loud and he just does not know. But so I'm hoping now that school is back, and hopefully this means that I might be able to get kids off to bed at a half decent time. And not like 10 o'clock at night, like they're trying to drag it out. And if I can get them, like if I can have them in bed by like 8:30, or at least be quiet, I can actually do some stuff and do some lives, and stuff like this, and maybe do my meal planning possibly on Thursday. So Thursday Australian time. If you're in the US, that would be actually, it would probably be like early Thursday morning or something like that, like really early. Or I might do it in the morning like I did today, and it will be sort of nighttime for you guys. So, Deidre, where are you based? I know, Shay, you're in Arizona, if I remember correct. So I'm in. If you're new to the channel, I'm based in South Australia. Um, and are you in Texas? Beautiful, fantastic. So yeah, it's probably be fairly late for you guys now, isn't it? So it would be, because at the moment here it's now about nearly 1:45 in the afternoon. Um, so yeah, so the kids are at school, and it's nice and quiet. And my 3-year-old is actually cooperating today, which is really good. Doesn't always happen, so I was really glad I was able to get on here and do this live. So yeah. Oh, so 8. So it's not crazy late. I was I was worried that it was going to be like insanely late at you, for you you guys. I don't want to keep you guys up. But yeah, no. So Deidre, I was asking before. So do you do low carb or keto or anything like that? Or do you sort of, is it something you're looking into, or like whole food based or anything like that? Because I'd love to, if you have any questions or anything like that, I'd love to be able to answer them as well. And yeah, just sort of have a conversation, sort of let you guys sort of lead the way a little bit as well, not just me chatting along. Oh, you want to? Fantastic. So, do you at the moment, what would you say like your diet is like at the moment? Is it do you do more sort of cooking from scratch, whole food based? Is it more packaged? And or takeaways? There's so many, like, everyone's different. Where can I help you achieve your goal of changing around, and trying out low carb living? I have to mention as well, I mentioned this to Shay earlier before, but you cook from scratch, fantastic. That is a really good start, because it is going to be probably mainly just tweaking ingredients here and there, which is really, really good. So I might just repeat a little bit of what I said at the start of this live. What I find cool, just don't know how to begin. All right, let's tweak a little bit. So what kind of cooking do you like? So you cook from scratch. Do you like things like your Mexican food? Is it Italian, like pasta? Is it carb heavy? Where can we, let's see, we can start tweaking, helping you tweak a little bit. I mentioned to Shay before that, let's see. Now I think, oh, there's someone else here. Sorry, I'm pretty sure I recognize that comment as being Portuguese, I think. Boa noite. Did I say that right? I hope I did. I think that means good evening. If that's the one thing I know in Portuguese. And that's the extent of my Portuguese. But thank you so much for dropping in. Meat, potato, and veggies. Yeah, beautiful. So that is really common to like the standard Australian diet as well. The meat and 3 veg, we call it here. All right. So first of all, I would potatoes. So let's do the potatoes. Potatoes are, well, they're high carb food because they're high in starch. So what happens is when you're eating high carbohydrate food or high starchy food, so starches turn into carbohydrates in our body. That's what they do. Is that so? I explained this earlier as well, but it's really good to repeat myself, especially now that there are more people. Um, your body getting the carbohydrates in, and to metabolize the carbohydrates, your body needs to uh, get out. I'm tongue tied again. Insulin. So your body gives out insulin to help absorb and metabolize the carbohydrates. So you're getting what's called an insulin spike, and what that does is that it brings your blood sugar up. So it goes up and reaches the peak, and then it will start falling again. And especially your white carbs, like your white potatoes, white flesh potatoes, your grains, like your wheat, rice, pastas, those sort of foods, they give a really big spike, and then they give a big drop after a little while, which is why often you'll feel tired after um, after eating. So say maybe you get a lot of energy first, and then you'll go, oh, you're getting like in a slump. And your body's going to start to crave more carbohydrates. So you want to eat because your body then want to get that spike again. So you want to start feeling good. So you reach for something. It could be a piece of toast. It could be a muffin. It could be something that's high in carbs, and you get that spike again. And what happens is that you're getting this up and down sort of graph going. What you want. So the aim with low carb is obviously to even out that insulin response. So it's actually a really good way of living for people who are insulin resistant or type 2 diabetes, because it will stabilize your blood sugar levels. It will prevent those slumps in between, and it might take a few weeks to get used to, and which is why we can start changing it slowly. But ultimately, you're most likely going to find that your energy levels are going to keep much more constant, rather than a big high and then a big low. And when you're keeping them constant, you're not going to go reach for easy carbohydrates. So with the potatoes, to start with, you could change over to sweet potatoes. They are lower in starches and lower in carbohydrates. There's still carbohydrates in them, but not as much as in your regular potatoes. And so it's going to help, again, even up. So you might not have as much of a spike. You might sort of look a little bit more like that. And then eventually start weaning off. So less and less, maybe cook. Everyone has maybe half the amount, and then start reducing down, but increasing your other vegetables. So your green leafy vegetables are really like the best ones to have. They are low in carbohydrates. They are high in nutrition. Your spinach, your broccolis, broccolinis, asparagus, and all of those, and they're actually really, really good to saute. So they're really quick to make as well, especially when if you're cooking for a family. So what I do is I will saute them up. And now talking about what you're sauteing them in. So saute, I don't know if you know not everyone knows what saute means. Saute literally means just quickly frying something off in a frying pan, but it doesn't just sort of sit there. You sort of keep tossing it, and it's like a quick fry rather than a sit there and for several minutes sort of thing. So you keep your vegetables stay crunchy as well. And with your vegetables, you want to do preferably above ground vegetables. So limit the starchy below ground. So as I said, maybe transition from your potatoes to your sweet potatoes. Start limiting down. Oh, my little boy is making some sort of squeaky noise in the back. I'm sorry if that picking up on the microphone. And then just, start limiting down the sweet potato until you sort of eliminate it eventually. And that might take a few weeks, and that's okay. The oils, so I was talking to Shay before about the oils that you use. So usually if you're frying things or roasting things in the oven, can I ask what sort of oils do you use at the moment, the fats that you use to fry things in? Is there anything particular? I know very, very common thing to use is canola oil. And if that's something that you have, grapeseed. Okay, so that wasn't the next thing I was going to mention is the seed oils. So your canola, your seed oils, and your vegetable oils. If you could purge those and start transitioning into some better oils, that's going to make a huge difference as well. What happens with seed oils is that from the second that they're extracted, they start going rancid. They're also not very stable to cook with. So what happens with those sort of oils when you cook with them is that they actually change their chemical structure, which is really interesting. And it's when you start researching and looking up all of these things, you just go, oh my goodness! But it also, pardon me, I'm going to have to have a little bit of water. But so you have we got our fats, and they're divided into, we have our saturated fats, we have our polyunsaturated fats, and we have our monounsaturated fats. So the poly and the monos, especially the monos, are really unstable, and they change chemical structures, but the polyunsaturated ones do as well. So that's your olive oils. So what you want to do is that you want to get rid of the seed oils and the canola and those sort of oils and vegetable oils. Olive oil is actually a great oil, but not for cooking. You want to use your olive oil. Peanuts, I think peanut oil is okay. I haven't done a huge amount of research on peanut oil yet, but nut oils are usually better than the seed oils. They're more stable. Olive oil is great for your cold stuff, so I would use olive oil like on top of salads. So like when you've cooked your food, and if you want to put something else on top, that's where I'd put olive oil, or I would use it as a base for a dressing. So you use it cold, and when you use it cold, it's brilliant. It's great for you, but it needs to be a good quality one. So get like the extra virgin olive oil. They're the better ones than the refined ones. So find like a good quality one that you like the taste of as well. And for cooking, I would use either coconut oil. It's got a higher smoke point. I would use either or avocado oil, or I would use ghee. So if you don't know what ghee is, it's clarified butter. So it's butter that's been heated up, and then when you heat butter, the milk solids go down the bottom. So you'll see that sort of cloudiness, white stuff down the bottom, and that's sort of been fried off if you want. And then the pure fats of the butter has been put aside, and that pure fat is actually what you use to cook with. And that's actually got a really high smoke point. If I remember right, I think it's sitting at around about 400 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm not incredibly clever with Fahrenheit. I'm metric system, so for me we go with Celsius. So, but it's got a much higher smoke point. So all those, so coconut oil, avocado oil, and ghee are really, really good ones to cook with because they all have high smoke points. And I think avocado oil is actually the highest one. I think that's actually sitting around 500 degrees Fahrenheit. I think you can get that. If I don't remember right, I should go and check. I've got one sitting in my pantry. So I would all those three I get from Costco because you get quite large amounts and you get them really cheap. But they're good quality ones. So if you go to Costco and you've got a Costco membership, that's a really good way to go. I'd also I wouldn't be scared of actually frying stuff off. And I'd also not be scared of eating the fats off your meat. So many the standard American diet and the guidelines they used to be always they used to say, I don't know if they say it anymore, but they used to say, cut away all visible fats. You don't need to do that. There are so many cultures out there that eat all the fat. They do like a nose to tail. Fat is a huge part of their diet, and they actually got really, really low levels of heart disease. There was, I think it was back in the 1950s, there were two studies that came out. One was pro-fats and showing why carbohydrates are not doing us too many, too many good things. And the other one was a guy who actually, trying to think, I can't remember what it was he had, but he had a vested interest in getting, I think it was from the sugar industry, and getting sugar and carbohydrate. Oh, sure, that's fine, Deidre. But yeah, so he was trying to get the American Dietetics Association to recommend his study that showed that fat was bad. So he was saying that saturated fat caused heart disease. However, what happened with that study, and his study has been pulled apart, and what was shown was that before he did that study, he did a pre-study. And he decided to look at all these different countries that had high saturated fat diets. And then what he did was that he cherry-picked his results that fitted. So he wanted to find the results that fitted his hypothesis. So he found the countries that had a high fat diet, but that also had a high incidence of heart disease. And he said, okay, this proves that saturated fats causes heart disease. And he had pretty high influence within like the boards of I think it was like the Dietetics Association or whoever it was that set the guidelines. And he managed to make sure that his study was the one that was picked to set the guidelines. However, he completely left out countries like France, Italy, that have very high saturated fat content in their diet, but have very, very low incidence of heart disease. And there were some other countries as well. I just can't think of them off the top of my head. And just that cherry picking made his results seem like they would fit his hypothesis. And what happened was that saturated fat was completely vilified, and still to this day, and like we're talking now 60, 70 years? 60, 70 years ago, this happened. And since then, people have been like petrified of eating fats. And not only are we getting fatter, but we're having so many incidents of, I'm thinking Alzheimer's, dementia. I would really love to see a study that follows people that have a low carb healthy fat diet, and I want this on a large scale because I want this to be a good study, but I would love to see a study that did that, followed a group of people that had a low carb healthy fat living over, like we're talking over decades, versus those that have the standard American or the standard Australian diet. And I'd love to see the incidence of dementia, and I'd love to see the incidence of heart disease in those two groups over a long period of time. And I'm talking thousands. I'd love to see, like huge big groups. I'm talking like probably thousands, tens of thousands of people, because that would give you the best results. And because our brain is predominantly made up of fat, and if we're depriving ourselves of fat and fat-soluble vitamins as well, what's that going to do to our brains? So I think one of the things that I found when I gave up sort of carbs, or even sort of bread, I barely have like bread at all anymore, was that my brain fog disappeared. And which was really, really strange, because I wasn't really expecting that to happen. I thought, maybe I'll see, my skin might get better, which it did, and my weight would go down, which as well it did. I lost so about 16 kilos, which is approximately, I think, 31 or 32 pounds, and that was just by changing my diet, including intermittent fasting, to get my body 16 hours where it wasn't eating, where it could work on healing itself. As well as I do take a herbal extract as well, that helps again stabilize my hormones better. So not just my insulin, but other hormones as well. It reduces my cortisol levels, helps me sleep. So that has helped as well. But just sort of all those sort of things that I saw when I went away from processed carb heavy foods has just been amazing. I didn't expect all of that to happen, and I'm just really interested to see how that would work on a larger scale, and not just because obviously what I did is purely anecdotal, but I know that it worked, and I know that I feel better for it, and I've seen so many other people as well feel so much better and lose weight, feel healthier, have type 2 diabetes back under control. And I just have to add, when I'm talking about diabetes, I'm talking type 2 diabetes, not type 1. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease, and that's not going to get reversed or anything like that from changing a diet. If you've got type 1, you have type 1, and that's not going to change anything at all. But I don't know how that would work with low carb, and that's not something I've been reading a lot about, so I'm not going to make any suggestions as to what to do with that. That's something for your physician and your dietitian if you have one. But with type 2 diabetes, type 2 is it's predominantly a lifestyle disease, and it can be reversed. So you hear that right, it can be reversed, and it can be put back under control, and people have gone off medication by going low carb healthy fat. And it makes sense, because diabetes is a carb metabolism disorder, and it works on your insulin. So the fact that before, and I think that things are changing here in Australia with the recommendations for diets for diabetics now, slowly but surely, people are still coming on board. But it just makes, to me, so my background is actually as a nurse. I was a registered nurse for several years. I worked with a lot of diabetics, and it just blew my mind how many times, they were allowed to eat biscuits. They were, refined, like white bread. It just made no sense to me why someone with a carbohydrate metabolism disorder would get fed carbs. just doesn't make any sense. But we can always talk about that more another day. I think I might wrap it up in a bit. See if anyone else jumps on for a while. But yeah, it's been good just sort of sitting here having a chat, giving a bit of advice, and yeah, hopefully I can. I'd love to be able to do this again. Um, I'm sorry if you can hear my little one. He's singing. He's singing in the background. He's quite happy, but he might pop up on the microphone. Um, but yeah, I'd love to do this again. I'm thinking that my next live will be about how I meal plan, and how I sort of plan my shopping list, and how I shop for my food. So I thought that might be. I'm thinking of possibly doing that on Thursday. Um, I'll see what time I'm free, but possibly sort of around about the same time as today. I'm hoping. So I'm going to say goodbye for now, and thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate the love and the support. I hope to see you again soon, and yeah, shoot me a comment. Make sure you give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed this chat. And I'm gonna have to run because my little one has decided to feed the dog food. So this is live, people. Alrighties, I'll catch you soon. Hopefully, I'll catch you on sort of Wednesday, Thursday. Alright, well, I'll catch you soon. Bye.